This one's been in my bag for so long. I don't know what it smells like. I just needed to be part of the group.
Okay, we are on. Welcome to the February 8th Select Board meeting. We have a full capacity here of Courtney Fresha, Jim Selby, Zach Burns, Megan Birchmont, Michael, and myself, Ellen Sturgis. I learned recently that with recorded meetings, you should be doing roll calls, so I want to make it clear now that I've noted that all 5 select board members are here, that if we have a unanimous vote, I will not request a roll call, but otherwise, if there are votes, I will do a roll call. Also be aware, please, everyone participating, that Stow TV is recording this entire proceeding, also request, and there's some gray area around the current law around remote learning, so I just want to make sure everybody knows that. And, okay, so for public comment, please limit your remarks to under 2 minutes, please, and identify yourself and your address. And Kelly had her hand up the minute she turned on, so you go.
Hey, thank you, Madam Chair. And I really just wanted to start by saying that I live at 170 Hudson Road, and I've been a Stow resident for 8 years. I'm also an educator. I've been a middle and high school English teacher for 12 years now. So I just wanted to thank everyone on the select board for serving our town. I value the work that you do for our community, and I hope that you'll continue to prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion in our town by supporting Mr. Salvi's statement to acknowledge and honor Black History Month, which I know is on the agenda tonight. It was just so special for me to hear that him make that statement. It was so thoughtful, and it made me feel like we are one step closer to, just doing more of the work to be welcoming and inclusive in our town, to kind of align with our town motto. I myself am a teacher, and I serve a diverse community of people, and I know that all of our towns are growing, so I want us to continue to do that work together. So I'm just really excited to hear the discussion that the select board is putting on tonight, and that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for making that statement, and I hope it gets voted on and as a resolution tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Anyone else? Okay, so just some announcements on my part, and then actually, maybe Megan, you want to go first?
Oh yeah, I wanted to note that because I have boxes of books in my house that I need to get rid of, that the Friends of Randall Library is having a book sale the weekend of April 22nd to the 24th. They are taking drop-offs between now and then during the opening hours at Randall Library or the Community Center, and that's weekdays from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. So, if you need to get rid of some books in your house, then that's great.
Oops, sorry, that was the timer.
The timer.
Sorry, let's see what happened. I have a few just quick announcements. One, two of our organizations in town had great issues this month. The Council on Aging has their February newsletter. I just had to point out very sweet love story of Marty Sheehan and Chet Jacobs. So if you haven't read it, it comes in the what's the Action Unlimited on the weekends, but you can look on their website. It's really sweet. It's just a very heartwarming Valentine's story. So happy Valentine's Day. Also, the Stow Historical Society's February issue has a great, very complete story on Mapledale, the golf course, as does Stow TV has done a video on it. So I hope people will take the time to read about some amazing history in Stow. 2 quick reminders. The information session is tomorrow night on the Masters Academy. It's a public meeting just to hear from the folks at Masters Academy and what their plans are. It's posted on the website, the link, it's all remote, so you're free to do it from home. That starts at 7 o'clock. Next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow, the Nashoba Regional School District will be doing a presentation on the budget. It's also at 7 o'clock, and we have posted it as a select board meeting as well in case more than two of us want to go, so just so everybody knows. And then finally, reminder from the town clerk that the town census are due in their office as well as dog licenses, so please send those back to the office. And there are nomination papers available for a number of positions. I won't go through them all, but they will be up on the website shortly, and they've been printed in the newspaper. So I think that was all I had. Other announcements? Yeah, Zach.
2 comments. The capital planning committee met last Thursday. We had sort of an initial walkthrough of the budget. I would say at this point, sort of nothing of note to come back here, except that we've had that prelim walkthrough with Denise and discussed some ARPA funding work in terms of capital being listed on there, as well as just basically a walkthrough of some of the large and not so large requests this year. The second thing is Mr. Salvi and I met with for the level 3 grievance that the board appointed us to. We actually had our grievance meeting. We have a draft response that we are still, working on for a response. I believe this Friday is the deadline for that. So that is our update to this board so far, and obviously after that, we can provide a further update after we've submitted our final report.
Thank you. Thanks for doing that again. Any other announcements? Comments? All right. Okay, so next up, and then one recognition I have is that Skip Warren, who everybody knows is our local sheep farmer, turned 90 last week. So belated happy birthday to Skip Warren. And we're in the Warren room, as we thought, parents, I guess those are parents. I think these are his parents. So anyway, happy birthday, Skip. Hope you had a great day. Any other recognitions? All right, let's move on. Town administrators report.
Thank you. First, I would like to recognize and acknowledge the Highway Department for the great job they've done on the roads over the last few weeks. I drive through a number of towns to and from work, and it is definitely noticeable how much better the roads in Stow were in comparison to the surrounding communities. I've heard from a number of residents complimenting the roads. I've heard from a number of department heads. Public safety was very appreciative, so just great job by the Highway Department keeping our roads as clear as could be in the last few events that we've had. I know the board will speak about this next, but so Black History Month launched February 1st. The town, our internal diversity, inclusion and awareness team launched February 1st with our weekly recognition for Black History Month. So if you haven't seen it, please visit our Facebook page. We post a new acknowledgement each Monday. I think it's 7 a.m. they're planning to post. We recognize a different individual for their contributions to the history and legacy and adversity that Black Americans have gone through. So we hope you enjoy our posts and continue to follow them. The current COVID-19 case count in Stow is at 89. Our positivity rate is at 12.19%. So if you'll recall, 2 meetings ago, we were well over 20%. We're slowly coming back down. So we are at 12.19%. Let me see, you talked about the masters. CPC met last night. The 3 projects that are up for funding were discussed. The conversation, 2+ hours, sort of focused around the town hall project. The committee discussed borrowing for the project over a 25-year period. There were no formal votes taken. They took sort of a straw poll of the members on the projects. There seemed to be not unanimous, but majority support for the library project. Same with the affordable housing project. And they were split right now on the town hall project, but it appeared, in my estimation, that they were more in favor of approving the funding. Some of them stated it was more so to allow a broader town meeting vote. But again, no votes were taken. They are meeting again on the 14th, next Monday, where the expectation is they will vote on all 3 projects and vote on funding mechanisms, which if they do approve all 3 projects, they will have no choice but to borrow because they do not have enough cash to fund the 3 projects. So that is where that stands. As of today, as of last week, Nashoba is at a 4.67% increase over our fiscal '22 assessment, which is over $1 million. However, there are still a bunch of unknowns. We meet again on Monday with the superintendent to discuss anything that's changed in the last 2 weeks. I am on the union negotiation team. We are meeting with the unions on Tuesday to discuss a 1-year contract extension. And then, as the chair mentioned, next Wednesday is the meeting for the superintendent to present his budget proposal to the finance committees. Quite frankly, us at 4.67 was one number. Lancaster being over 7%, I think their town accountant was gonna faint at our meeting. It was not a number she was prepared to see. So we still have some work to do with that. The health insurance estimates have come in at 8.5% for us for fiscal '23. We have not received any retirement numbers yet. And obviously the school is the biggest number that we have. So once we get some finalized numbers on that, I will incorporate it into my state of the town finances, which is at our next meeting. I have been actively meeting with all the departments. Dolores has sat in. I think I've been in meetings every minute of every day for the last 2 weeks, meeting with our departments to go through the budget. It's a great exercise. Not only do we talk about the departments and their budget, we talk about their goals. Meetings that we thought would be 45 minutes have turned into 2 hours. You know, there's nothing crazy that's being requested from the town side, a couple new positions, a couple, changes with some of the positions, but there's nothing new that I would expect to be moving forward. But we'll see how that plays out. As I've told the departments, it's all a wait and see until we know what some of our larger increases will be. So I'll have more information for you on that at our next meeting. As the chair mentioned, nomination papers are available now through March 30th. As a reminder, annual town meeting will be Saturday, May 14th, and the annual town election is Saturday, May 21st. That is all I have for you under my report tonight.
I have a question on the borrowing for if CPC theoretically approved all three, would the borrowing be just generally for CPC or would it be tied to each specific project? I don't know how that works.
No, so the only discussion right now is borrowing for the town hall project. They have the cash to pay for, the way the library request is, the library is requesting $1 million, but over a 3-year period. So they've asked for $300,000 this year, $300,000 next year, and $400,000 in the third year. The affordable housing project is, and I can't remember the number, it's about $900,000, I believe, that they're looking for. There is money under the Affordable Housing Reserve primarily, so that money would be available. The $4.8 million, there's not just enough cash. So the request was made to fund $800,000 of that through next year's allocation and then borrow $4 million over a 25-year period.
And the debt exclusion question for the Randall Library renovation that we're going to take up would be on the general fund, not CPC.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, so we can talk about that when it gets up, but it would be set up, that article at town meeting would be set up very similar to the way we've done Halleck Point, Stowe Acres. There will be the maximum amount, and then it will be offset by CPA funds, any fundraising, any grants, and then the remainder, which will be an unknown. I will, we're estimating about $6.5 million as the most conservative estimate that would go to the ballot, but it could be much lower depending on how they do with grants and fundraising. Probably not grants, but that would be what the debt exclusion is for, would be the balance after the other funding mechanisms.
Any other questions for Denise? Great. Thank you so much. So we're gonna go to the statement of support of Black History Month. Just wanna thank people who wrote in. We got a number of letters and correspondence asking for, or supporting this idea, so I don't know, Jim, did you get more comments?
I got 1 or 2, but they were consistent with the ones that we saw in our correspondence.
Is there any other discussion or comments about it before we take a vote?
I move to approve the statement of support of Black History Month.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. Great. Thank you again, Jim, for drafting that initially. All right, so now we have Mark O'Hagan here, who's gonna be presenting information on the Stow Acres housing piece. Mark, glad you could join us and excited to hear more. Thank you. We haven't heard much since we got all the other pieces done. Now we get to get into this. Just for people's understanding, Mark will be submitting 3 applications called LIP applications, which you can explain. And so we are hearing the presentation and as a introduction so that we can vote to support, to send a letter of support for those applications. So, Mark, I will let you take it from here.
Terrific. I'll give just a brief overview. I do have a relatively short presentation that I can do. A lot of it is materials that have been in the various public meetings we've held before, but just to kind of tie everything together. But overall, as many people know, myself, the golf course owner, and particularly people from the town staff, the planning department, conservation, and the Conservation Trust have been working for about 18 months in evaluating the overall Stow Acres property, and had kind of settled in after an extensive review on a certain area for development to focus some housing. And that's on North Course, kind of, I guess, the north side of it. So what had been proposed and presented in the public information meetings is the same proposal that is within the LIP applications in front of you. The LIP applications are what I need to submit to the Department of Housing and Community Development to seek their support through a site approval letter, that would give me the standing to meet with the Stow Zoning Board of Appeals to apply for a comprehensive permit. The information that's included is still really conceptual. We've been working on developing more engineering data as we go through it. But at this point, it really is a broad brush of the area for the development, the 3 different types of housing that we're putting in, with all the bulk of the engineering that needs to be done. So what we have done is we have recently secured an ANRAD from the Conservation Commission, which essentially means that we've flagged the wetlands. The Conservation Commission and their consultants have reviewed it. We've agreed on a plan so that we all know where the wetlands are from a planning perspective going forward. My engineers have completed all the topo work, and they're kind of in the process of trying to take that conceptual plan and overlay it and to real kind of black and white engineering plans to make sure that it works. So I'll be working on that over the next few months while DHCD is evaluating the initial submission. But I don't know if you want to do if I can do a screen share, I can run through the presentation.
Great.
And hopefully I can find it because no, that's not what I want. See if that opened. Did that open? No. Is that sharing?
Nope.
No.
Not seeing it yet.
Not yet,
No.
okay. It's on my screen, sorry. I need to do that. this one works.
There we go.
There we go.
All right,
All right,
sorry about the delay.
all right.
Okay, so again, much of this is information that people have seen. Overall, the project consists of 189 units. There's 3 different types of projects, and the reason why we have 3 different LIP applications is because the state evaluates them differently, and so that's just the best way to control it. So there are 40 rental cottages, and I'll go through a little bit on the site plan, that will be provided. There's 3 home styles that are built into that. That this is more of kind of, family housing as compared to being there's no age restriction, or it's not specifically designed for age restriction. We do have one home style that has a bungalow, which would be terrific for handicapped individuals or, kind of your empty nester, people that may want to have one level living. Those homes, and I'll show samples of them as we go through the presentation, they're modest size. They range from about 1,200 to 1,400 square feet. There'll be 40 rental cottages, so 10 of those will be affordable. Those rents will start at, for some people, I know it doesn't sound affordable, but the 3 bedrooms would actually be at roughly $2,000 a month. Compared to the market rate these days, a 2-bedroom apartment on 495 in a newer complex is running close to $3,000 a month, believe it or not. The second component of the housing is apartments for 62 plus, so kind of elderly rentals. For these, we've targeted them to be at the 50% of the median income, as compared to 80, which is what the rental cottages are, as well as for the single-family homes. This is really intended for people, singles and couples. They, live in town, want to stay in town. Probably will be a little bit more expensive than some of the town options for housing. But overall, these rents will be down as low as $1,200 a month. To try to meet the needs of kind of single income people living in town that will give them the opportunity to stay. Really kind of a nice big building. It's going to be the focal point when you come into the property, kind of a broad green with this leading up to it. There'll be some common space and potentially space for usage for community needs as well. In this structure, this will be where it is 62 plus. There will not be children in the building, where it will be limited. So it really will be for singles and couples in 1-bedroom apartments. The third style and kind of the main focus of the property that will pay the bills is 124 detached single-family homes. So they will be on individual lots. Those lots will range probably from about 4,000 to 8,000 square feet. So relatively tight. It's kind of your traditional neighborhood development design that you might have seen in some other locations. Attractive homes, more modest than what you see. And I know at one point, I think the planning board had a slide that the average new home since 2010 that had been built in Stow was like 3,250 square feet. So, these are going to go from 1,800 to probably 2,800 on the high end for them. But attractive homes, kind of front porches, picket fencey designs. Really, looking at the lots in total of how people can utilize that space between having a comfortable residence as well as functions that they can do within their property and enjoy it. Really all tied together with a community approach and some open space and pockets in between. Those homes, some of those will have first floor masters, again suitable for empty nesters, but there will not be any specific age restrictions on them, but we'll do some age restriction by design. So this is the overall site plan. If you look at kind of this entrance that's just kind of off the bottom of the screen, if you went straight out the entrance, you'd be looking directly at the clubhouse. If that helps put it put it in place for people to see visually. So this here is the component, the senior apartments or the elderly rentals that we talked about. So you would come in at nice big kind of town common in front of it. Parking would be tucked around the rear. I'll show some of the preliminary elevations on that as we go through. The housing is kind of, we've kind of got three styles. We've got these exterior lots, the ones that were a little bit bigger in the range of 8,000 square feet. We've got interior lots here that will be more modest in size, both the homes and the lots. We've kind of got some, drainage kind of flowing through, and as a feature, these homes are designed kind of with their, front facing the streets, and these are actually little alleys so that the garaging will be in the back of homes. So when you go down kind of your primary streets, you're really just seeing the structures, and in the back will be garaging. Another little kind of component here, a few of them, some smaller cottage lots, a little tighter, but they'll be consistent with what you see on the interior lots. And in the back end of the property is where the rental cottages will be, again, wrapped around some, some small parks for common space. Parking will be, dispersed to be relatively, equal for everybody, being able to be close enough to a place for parking. This parcel of what we're seeing, this is about 60 to 65 acres, is what you're seeing within these black lines. And then the balance of the 9 holes that will continue to operate is on the left side of these. Up in the back, as you go towards Wheeler Pond, we'll be targeting putting in a community water supply. So to service the property, there will be a series of wells that will be permitted through DEP. That is it's a very extensive process to ensure there's sufficient quantity and that the water is of adequate quality for people. It'll be stored if there's any treatment that's required. That would be done in a common facility we're targeting, what we expect will be 3 wells. And we'll be starting to, if the board supports these applications, and we'll be starting the process with DEP to specifically locate those and make arrangements to get that approved and start with the drilling. Other main component of the site will be for services will be a wastewater treatment facility. Wastewater treatment facility is a very extensive amount of treatment to the effluent. What really kind of goes back into the ground is essentially a gray water or relatively, clean fluid that's going back into the water. We haven't made a final decision of where those facilities are going to be located, but we'll probably have a structure up towards the front entrance that will house the equipment, and the leaching area might be in the front. It might even be in the town common. Given that back here with some of the preliminary soils that we've done, the soils are very good, and the amount of treatment that the leaching area is actually relatively modest given the amount of flow, because of that the effluent is clean before it goes in. So I'll kind of run through some of the various product that we're looking to put on site. This is a sample of a 2-bedroom cottage, kind of on 2 levels. Really, the intent is just kind of a fresh look on a kind of a farmhouse design. Front porches on all the homes. We've got a lot of different details that we can incorporate between some metal roofing. We've got some vertical siding here and board and batten, and we've got some regular clapboard designs. Those types of things can all be kind of mixed and matched to get an interesting streetscape as you go through the property. On here, this floor plan is just under 1,300 square feet. Nice, kind of kitchen, island, dining room, and nice sized living room with foyer, half bath on the first floor, laundry, facilities for heating systems will be on the first floor. Second floor, 2 really comfortable but efficient bedrooms. So the intent is that, and I look at it, and if I compare this to living at, one of the larger rental properties out towards the highway, and having my own house, my own yard area around it, light on four sides, nobody above me, nobody below me. I think it's going to be a really terrific alternative for people looking for things from a rental perspective. Hitting the wrong button, it's sensitive. Second home style that we have is the bungalow. Again, nice broad front porch, a means to differentiate some things in terms of texture on the property. The windows upstairs are really just decorative. What's nice, I think, about this plan is it is all one level. So again, this isn't going to be age restricted, but it's something that can be suitable for handicapped individuals, for older couples that may have concerns with dealing with stairs. Simple design, very, kitchen, dining, living room on one side, two comfortable bedrooms on the other side with two full bathrooms. It's about 1,250 square feet. But again, I think it'll meet the needs for a broad range of people that might be interested in renting and not owning. This is the 3-bedroom rental cottage. Again, kind of a little bigger version of the 2-bedroom that you saw. Again, some variation for treatments that we can do. Front porch, key component really with all of the properties that we're looking to develop here in Stow. Again, just kind of a quaint, small farmhouse. And what we did is put living areas, kitchen, living, dining. Again, nice open plan. We had some extra space, so we got kind of a little pocket office here that I've done in some other properties. It's bigger than a closet, but at 7 by 7, these days people can put in a desk, and it's got some natural light. They can close it off from the other space. We found it to be really popular in for sale designs. I think it'll be the same in a rental. Nice master suite in the back. Again, work well for someone age restricted or handicapped, or a family that has a handicapped individual with the 1-level living. Upstairs, 2 bedrooms, a little more modest, and a bathroom. But again, really, I think a comfortable layout and a comfortable amount of space. This is about 1,370 square feet, 1,364, 1,369 or so. Again, a big rental, a small house, but compared to most of the homes that are being built today, I think, again, it will be a really comfortable alternative. This is the proposed building for the elderly housing for the 62 plus. It's kind of a big, broad building. I picture it of being just kind of a crisp farmhouse design. Again, probably metal roofing in the front, some board and batten, just a nice stately building, huge front porch running along the length of it for people to be able to sit out and enjoy. It has, as I said, the parking will primarily be in back of the building, so you can kind of picture this on the back end of a broad kind of green. That front green, for perspective, is a little under an acre, so it's a big area. It's not a 20 by 20 foot place. It's a very sizable area, and I think that this building will look like a nice stately clubhouse behind it. As I said, nice kind of broad entrance, a small office. We've got an area for an elevator if that's something we decide to put in. Be a common room in the back with some kitchen facilities, some storage, a common bath. On the back, this would probably be a little bit of a broader deck that can open up for both resident usages, and again, there's the potential that whether Council on Aging needed space or wanted to have meetings or presentations, I think the space would be a nice asset to the community. The units are relatively small, probably about 700 square feet on average, but again, comfortable, nice, kitchen, bath, bedroom, living room, a couple of different designs as it goes through. These are targeted towards singles and couples. There would be no children at the property, as I had mentioned. But again, a nice mix of sizes. Now talking about the single-family homes, the detached ones. Again, sample of an interior home site, again, kind of front porch. This is a product I've built in a couple other locations. You can kind of, see the detached garage in the back. That would be the intention for these homes. Again, another version. I think this version has a first floor master. Just trying to keep a theme that's consistent throughout the development. This just an example of one of the floor plans. Again, nice entry foyer, study on the first floor, which most of the homes will have these days. Big great room in the center, nice open kitchen dining area, that would open to the patio and the garaging in the back. Bedrooms on the second level here. Again, comfortable space, comfortable layout for people. Again, just another version of the interior homes. Again, some metal roof details, areas to mix and match textures and colors to have a nice range throughout the development. This is a design that would be more for the exterior homes. If on these designs, these homes are the bigger lots, they'd be pushed back a little bit. What we did is we have kind of two homes off of a shared driveway. Again, to keep the garaging, limited in terms of its visibility from the street. So this actually kind of has garaging in the center of it. Front porch, again, there's a back porch in the rear. For people to get a sense of space and again utilize the area behind them. This did have a first floor master study, back of the home, again very open with the rear porch, kitchen, living, dining, great room, all out. Some of these homes would overlook the golf course or walking paths and such. Additional bedrooms and some loft area upstairs. So overall, what really was the intent of the of the group when we were designing, and as we were contemplating what we wanted the overall benefit of the project to be, was to really hit a variety of both age groups and income groups and style groups for people. So that's where we developed upon having this mix of single family homes for families and for even people that are downsizing in some sense, that we'll have alternatives for them. Also having the rental cottages as compared to a larger rental building for family housing, and also the senior apartments up front, again to hit a different age group, a different need. And that will be at the affordable units there will be at 50% of the median. So we really can accommodate people that have incomes probably as low as 25 to 30,000 up to whatever, which I think is will make it a really kind of rich community in having that diversity, both in terms of the people that want to live there, that can afford to live there, and hopefully will choose to live there. Another overall advantage of this, by incorporating some of the rentals, we've got 189 total units. 96 of those will qualify towards the town's subsidized housing inventory. With those 96 units, the expectation is that would get the town over the 10% of affordability for the first time. And having it now at the beginning of a new decade, you really have control over things going forward for another 10 years. And I know the town is active in creating other affordable housing. I think what the benefit of being at 10% is that you kind of you have control of your zoning. If someone wants to come in and do affordable housing, it's done in conjunction with the town and in locations that the town is comfortable with, and a scope and scale and a product that the town is comfortable with. So with the support of this overall project, you'll have that for the next decade, which I think will be a significant advantage to the community. And again, what I think is the coolest part and is the diversity of housing that'll be made available. The rental cottages and the senior apartments or the elderly rentals and stuff. You just really don't see it not done privately very often. And with the way that we were able to structure things here, being able to incorporate it, I think is going to be a terrific asset for the community. And something hopefully we will be able to duplicate for other communities, because it's tough to do. And overall, I can't say enough about the the involvement from both local officials and planning and conservation and the Conservation Trust, of how much time and energy they put in to kind of work through this, and for us to all kind of settle in on a plan that we thought was going to be productive for the town and attractive and well cited, based upon all the work that was done. But it really has been a proactive project from the town's perspective, and I'm really honored to be involved with it. So tonight, with those three applications, if the Board of Selectmen was to accept them and support them, from there, they would be submitted to DHCD, to the Department of Housing and Community Development at the state. They will be evaluating them for compliance with the local initiative program, based on my experience with them, and the lead times that they're talking about, and in being understaffed like most places, it probably will take them 3 to 4 months to finish their work. At that point, it would be my hope that they would issue site approval letters for the 3 different projects. And as I had stated, that would give me the standing to meet with the Zoning Board of Appeals to request a comprehensive permit. A little cumbersome for everybody with the 3 permits, but it's just kind of the nature of how it has to be done in dealing with program requirements, cost certifications, rental versus homeownerships, and elderly and stuff. It will be my intent to present everything to the zoning board at the same time, so they're going to get all of the information. So the wells will be servicing the entire property. The wastewater treatment facility will be servicing the entire property. Drainage will be reflecting the entire property. So although there'll be 3 applications, in fact, I think it really can be effectively treated as one from a planning and a design review. So my expectation is that while DHCD is reviewing it, that we'll be able to to complete the engineering review, not engineering review, engineering design on the site, and be in the position to make those submissions when we hear back from DHCD. To go through the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Great.
I think that's it. So if there's any questions
Great.
that I can answer, I can keep the plans up for a little bit, or I can take them down if you prefer that.
Why don't you keep them up for a minute in case people have questions specifically? I know we got letters from Stowe Conservation Trust, from the joint letter of Planning Board, SMOT, and Conservation. So obviously, that group that you've been working with still supports this, which is great. I know I had one question from our new Green Advisory Committee asking about solar components. I don't know when that would come into this, but just thought I'd ask now for them.
Yeah, I think it'll come into it, and I've talked with some of the people on the committee. Both, we've had some conversations early on about fossil fuels on site, and the use of split zone systems. Single family homes. Certainly, my intention is that we will have a plan for solar. That will be it will be on an optional basis, so it will be something that people would be paying for it. But we're going to be in the position to be able to offer it and have a partner. So we can do it effectively and make arrangements for people if that's what they want to do as we're building it going forward. And we'll certainly be looking at as much energy conservation and green design that we can going throughout the process. right now, we are still kind of just getting all the information together, the deal with the site, make sure we can situate the homes, and then we'll start kind of the second phase. Once we have things organized and we know where everything's going, then we can start, looking more specifically at the structures and how we can achieve some conservation benefits. So absolutely, we'll be taking that into consideration as we go forward.
Thank you. Yeah, it makes sense. It's a little too early to talk about it, but I thought since I'd had the question, I figured I'd hand it off to you, so.
Absolutely.
Other questions from the board? Yes, Megan.
I don't have a question, but I wanna say that I'm so excited about this project. I remember sitting in a planning board meeting like 4 years ago, when Peter was thinking of selling and seeing basically what by right could have gone onto the property. And this is such an investment in this town, such an investment in the community of Stow. I'm so excited to have rentals in town. I'm so excited to have affordable, and the diversity of housing that's in here. And I just want to thank you. I want to thank everyone on town staff that has been working on this for years. I'm just incredibly excited about this opportunity. So yes.
Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Jim.
Two comments, Madam Chair. First of all, I'm very pleased to see that what has been presented tonight is virtually identical to what we heard about at the two town meetings that talked about this. There certainly were no promises at that point, certainly no details, but to the extent that there were any ideas or hints, this is no different than what we heard there. Seems that Mr. O'Hagan has been a very transparent and faithful partner through this process, and we appreciate that. The second comment, Madam Chair, I think maybe if there are any abutters, we should be clear about what we're doing tonight and what we're not doing. All we're doing tonight is considering giving Mr. O'Hagan a letter of support that he can take to the state to try to get technical assistance. And that technical assistance will count as a subsidy and help put any of these units on the subsidized housing index. What we're not doing is any portion of that comprehensive permit process. We're not issuing a permit. He'll still have to go through all of that, and there'll be public hearings at every step of the way.
Thank you. Good clarification. Anybody else?
I just want to say Megan expressed the same excitement. Mr. Salvi's point's well taken from me. I'm very excited that we have affordable units coming into town. Thank you for integrating it all in. I hope to see an elevator though in the 62 plus community. Having just worked with my grandparents prior to their passing, that would have been very helpful. So I would love to see that. That was one of the things that you mentioned maybe optional, but I would like to see that because I know that it can be very useful. But otherwise, thank you for doing this, and I look forward to supporting this, frankly, because I find it to be exactly as Mr. Salvi said, exactly what was promised, and it's just beautiful to see some of the details really come together.
Absolutely. Yes, Courtney.
So going last, Mark, there's not much left for me to say, but
Yeah, but I like to hear it anyway.
I can certainly echo the excitement. As this project has developed, I have been so impressed with the group that's worked together and the outcome of, the product so far of all your very hard work. And I've seen some of your buildings like this over on Sugar Road in Bolton, and I just want to thank you for building these thoughtfully designed, that they're attractive and in keeping with our town architecture, and so I want to thank you for doing what you do, and doing it here in Stow. I'm very moved that we get to have this, and that our staff and other volunteers have worked so hard to craft something that makes our town exemplary again. Thank you.
Well, I have to criticize, so I'll just say, the fact that you call it elderly housing for 62 plus, I'd like to think of it more as I'm more an empty nester than a elderly, so, but, you know,
It's-
how soon will they be
What I
ready?
will say in my defense is that the 62 plus is the proper determination.
Yeah.
Because that's the age limit. At 62 plus, you can limit children. At 55 plus, or quote, traditional age restricted, you can't limit children, and this just wasn't a property that we were looking to have children in. So the wording elderly gets bounced around. I qualify for age-restricted housing myself now, so I completely understand.
And I'm ready, so, open the doors, I'll be
Mindful of
mine.
that going forward.
Great, well, thank you so much, Mark. Denise, do you have any final thoughts you wanna add, or?
No, obviously, it's a fantastic project. I look forward to it coming to Stow and working through the next, 12, 15, 18 months through this process. I think, the 3 different applications, I think Mark clearly and very eloquently articulated what each project is, that I love seeing the style of housing. As Courtney mentioned, it's unique, it's exciting, and I think, overall, I think that this whole project is just amazing. So I look forward to it continuing through the process and coming to fruition in the near future.
Yeah, and I'll just add to what Courtney was saying, that the fact that you're doing it in Stow just not only makes us incredibly lucky, but now we're gonna be like this model that other people will come and see what you've done here and what this team has done here, and hopefully will be replicated. I love to see also normal size houses and living spaces, so again, thank you. And with that, I will
And
take, go ahead, you get the last word.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's been a really unique, process, for me. And again, you should thank your staff, because they had initiated it and stuck with it, for a long time, and through a few ups and downs as we were going through the design process. So I really feel fortunate to be involved. So, and I mean that. So, but I do think it is a model that other towns could look at going forward. That, Bob Wilbur and I were, swapping some messages before, and it really is, conservation and housing can blend together. You can do both, and do it well, I think, and hopefully this will be an example of it that people will be able to see going forward. So I'm
Great.
looking forward to it.
Great, thank you. I will take a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve and authorize the chair to sign the LIB applications for Stowe Acres as presented at this meeting by Mark O'Hagan and MCO Associates. And further, I move to authorize the chair to sign the board's letter in support of the project to the Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Kathy. Thanks, everybody who worked on this. Terrific. And I
Thank you very much.
got the letters here to sign. I'll sign them later. So, okay, so, let's see, the next is, deficit spending for the snow removal.
So this is just precautionary. We have about 38,000 in the account before payroll and expenses for this past weekend storm. I did not know what the next week or two was going to bring, so I just wanted to put forward a vote so that, God forbid, we do burn through that. The crews have been out. They were out all weekend long. They were out last night. They were out Sunday night into Monday. They were out this morning. So between the salt and the materials being used and obviously the labor, we do move through money fairly quickly. But so again, this is just precautionary. I would just ask that you support the request just in case before the next meeting, we exceed that amount.
Okay. Any questions or comments? I will take a motion.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 31D, I move to allow deficit spending of the fiscal year 2022 snow and ice account.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. All right.
Thank you.
Hopefully you don't have to use too much, but
Hopefully not.
the way things are
Pray
going.
for warm weather.
It's only, it's early yet, right? So the next item was sort of following up on our last year's discussion where we were gonna try to develop a policy on, I'm not sure what the right word is. I'd like to stay away from proclamations, but from, diversity and awareness topics, recognitions, whatever. And I thought since we just did the Black History Month tonight, that we could start the conversation and then maybe task someone to do a draft policy from here. So I don't expect to have a vote tonight, but I thought we could just get out some of the issues that have come up over the last year around how's the best way to make these recognitions. And as Denise has pointed out in the past, it's not merely the sort of social issues, but it's things like bike helmets, breast cancer awareness. But, obviously includes things like Black History Month, Pride Month, those kind of things. So I just, I wanted to sort of open up for a bit of discussion. I have said, I'll just start by saying, I have said in the past, I'd like to stay away from proclamations that are just proclamations, because I don't think they mean much, especially in a town like this when we're not some big city council that's all they do. I mean, we do have the business of the town to run, but I also see that it's important. I just don't want it to always fall on town building staff to do these things. I mean, I would love to see, residents draft things and bring them to us and say, would you be willing to support this? And to me, that's a much better thing. I want to support whether it's, the library or, NASJA or, a group from the church that is doing some sort of event. I want to support all those people, and we will, as we've said, we will publicize those things. But, what's our role in terms of stating something? I want to hear where everybody else was at with that, so.
I do agree with you on this. I think that I have given this a lot of thought. I think what was really difficult about everything that has gone on over the last month with the questions about Black History Month and whether or not we were going to make a statement was hard because I knew that we were going to be, that Denise and her team had been working on Black History Month. I think for me, our role is best served in supporting, how do I best say this? Sorry. Supporting ideas that are brought to us. So say a group comes to us and says, we would like you to support us in this statement. I think having us sign on to those things, I've seen this done on other issues, and having us support, as the board support it, I think is an effective way. I've given this a lot of thought, and obviously I'm not saying exactly what I want to say, but I do feel like as this board in this room, being able to have this discussion at this time, it's best for us to sort of vote on, and with open meeting, it's best for us to kind of vote on these statements of support of other things. I think what gets tricky for me is that because of open meeting law, we're in this room having these discussions. And so it becomes a lot easier when groups bring things to our attention for us to then react to those things. I'm gonna let someone else speak. Do you know what I mean? Because not just
because people hear it, or
right, because people hear it, but also because we can't just go off willy-nilly on our own. Like, we're a board of 5, right? So we're kind of bound by that. And so when a group comes to us and says, would you support X, Y, and Z? Then we can be in a meeting and have the discussion and vote on the support and go on there. It's just a technical function of this board, I think, is what keeps tripping me up. I'm gonna let someone else talk because I feel like I'm not articulating exactly how I.
we'll come back.
Come back to me, please.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with Megan, but I also think that possibly we could maybe work with
Thank you.
groups that are that have specific things in mind or that are excited about our new culture here on the board and the ability to make things known in this, you know, in this forum. I mean, I think this to me is, we sort of used to have chairman's comments and the chair could say, he could or she could extemporize on whatever current events were going on, and it was kind of up to that individual to recognize or not things, and what we've done is make it, I think, way more democratic, which I really like, and transparent. I'm wondering if we wanna look at some of the things that are done nationally for a number of months and just go ahead and say, you know, yes, and I suspect that Denise's group will perhaps kind of work on those anyway, but my thought would be that we could start with a number of things, and it's not, I mean, my sense is that it's not every month of the year that there's a month of awareness for a particular group. And so maybe, and I also don't see any reason why we can't have, you know, an awareness month for a particular item, but also have other things, of course, that are either much more local or that are a particular application from a local or regional group. So I guess my thought is that for us to act, as Megan was saying, that it'd be useful to have enough time. I mean, you know, for us to have a vote at a meeting, we actually need to have the request as much as a month in advance, at least a couple of weeks, so that, but probably a month, so that we have time to respond to that properly. Because it has to go through first a discussion and then, you know, you know, it might take 2 meetings for us to actually ratify a request. But I'm pretty excited about the transparency and the, you know, it sort of came up on my radar that these are things that I've been thinking about for much of my life, but now we have open conversation about it, and it's really amazing that things are being talked about that have been known for, you know, to me for ages, and I just didn't know what to do with it. And so now, you know, things are being done, so I look forward to that. It's not for me.
Yes, Jim?
I guess a couple of things. Number one, I basically agree with Megan that I think most of this should be community initiated. I think there actually are at least 12, one per month, things that people could ask us to recognize, often more. I think in 90% of the cases, if initiated, it can be taken care of in the chair's comments or something. If certainly there's an event, it can be publicized. A word of caution on that, as the guy who's getting off the board and you're going to look at this. The city of Boston now has a case in front of the Supreme Court about their third flagpole, where they were not very selective. In fact, they weren't selective at all. They would run a flag up from any group that asked. And the Supreme Court is, based on the oral argument, is probably going to rule that it became a public forum and that they lost the ability to say no. And there was a question asked at oral argument, well, what if the Proud Boys ask you to fly a flag? Everyone agreed that Boston should be able to say no, but given the facts, they weren't sure how that would happen.
Right.
Just a word of caution.
Right.
But I also just want to make a pitch for, I like the model of what we just did for Black History Month. Now, and that model is, frankly, this board piggybacking on work being done by the town administrators group, a customized statement highlighting educational and commemorative events or facts or something of an educational nature. That is not going to be able to be done 12 times a year, though. I don't know how many, but not a lot. But when, so I would divide it into two things. The things where we'll react to the community. You have to have some kind of technical selective process to avoid problems, but then stuff that we initiate along with the town administrator. And I agree with the chair. I as I said before, I don't like statements and nothing else. I like statements with some sort of educational thing.
I agree with Mr. Salvi about using the Black History motto. I think it's exactly what is so amazing. You know, seeing the Town of Stow's post on Facebook receive many comments, most of them being like, I never knew the history of my town in this way. Like that's a remarkable thing, because some of these people lived here 20, 30, 40 years and saying, oh, I didn't even know that. That's really cool. It's cool to be part of that history and to show why it's here, but also recognizing, I think, the current state of affairs. I think that's what this letter beautifully does, is it talks about the current state of affairs, and through implementation, it has actually caused a conversation in our community. And a conversation that I think matches what you said, Ms. Freccia, about the notion that we can talk about this. It's okay. It's important that we do that. And so to me, I think it's about not throwing, spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks. But I think it's about, and I actually sort of disagree with the sort of open forum thing. I actually strongly believe we should be selective. This is about working with Denise and the diversity group. This is about this board taking leadership. It's about centering things we think are important, whether it's Bike Safety Awareness Month, breast cancer awareness. Like, this board works with our staff, the community members, builds up a theme. I think, we should be talking in advance, month, 2 months in advance, like truly building something really cool for the month that allows opportunities for everyone to engage. So I see it as truly about planning. But I don't see it as every month. I don't see it as this continuous conversation. I see it as truly trying to give some theme to work that's already being done, working with the library, Council on Aging, truly giving a theme to what is happening, right? Like, hey, we're having a bunch of bike races. I'd love to have Bike Safety Awareness Week, so that way we're raising, we all know that when that time's gonna happen, when we see the bike races start to come through town. Like, what a great time to engage in certain conversations. And so I see it more as putting a theme in, and having this board really step in as the chief executive of the town and saying, we agree, and this is what we're seeing and how we're celebrating as a town in certain ways. And so, I think it's about striking that balance, being selective, going beyond proclamations, but I think making the statement like we did in the Black History Month is really powerful. In fact, I've heard from a person of color in town that heard this and directly said, I feel heard from my local government for the first time. That's a big statement when somebody says that who's experiencing this. And so I think, when I think about months that affect me, Pride Month, it is one where it does feel very personal. It affects you. You remember what it was like not hearing certain things. And so I think that's what's powerful. But I think we should be doing it in a very strategic, really trying to build that, I think Kelly said it right, this welcoming community that we are trying to build here as Stow, and really showing that off. And this whole rollout of Black History Month has just been, to me, so exciting, from listening to you, Mr. Salvi, read this proclamation, through to seeing these posts on Facebook, conversations of folks in town from all different backgrounds engaging. It is just so cool to see a conversation about Blackness in our town that this board was able to lean in on and help lead what that looks like. So I think, to me, it is about building a policy that keeps control on the board. It's not about doing 24/7, 365. It's about being really strategic, working with Denise, making sure that there's staff buy-in in terms of from the diversity group, that we're trying to really center all of that, and just being strategic. And I don't think, to me, the last thing I'll say is, I don't think it needs to be a rush. This isn't meant to be a rush job.
Right.
This is, to me, so important. I think that's what is so great about this Black History letter, is so much thought went into that. And I think that's exactly how I'd like to see each one of these rollouts, is really in this spirit. Because I think we can we can lead as a board and really show, I think, how cool it is to live in Stow. And that to me is exciting.
So, I just want, my concern, because it's sort of a theme and yet it comes back to the board, so I'm concerned about, that on the one hand, I think we all are saying it would be great to have a lot of it community initiated. Denise spent huge amount of time on this, and which, I mean, she set the bar pretty high for herself, because now we've seen like, well, if you spend a whole lot of time, you get an amazing product, but that's not really what we want our town administrator to be spending time on. And then frankly, the DEI committee, if that's what it's called, it does incredibly important work, and it's not about necessarily publicizing for the rest of us, our history, the Black History Month. So I'm just concerned about getting sort of specific on when we're talking about doing this, who's gonna do it? And I think being strategic is exactly right, and it's like, so how do we get there, how do we narrow down? Because there's 10 different months every month, and yes, I think we throw out some that we know we feel strongly about, but I just wanna make sure that we're on the same page about saying, anybody who brings one to us, we will announce, we wanna support all the efforts in town, whatever whatever group wants to do it, but, in terms of what we're gonna be doing, that's where I'm still concerned with resources. Megan, go ahead.
So what I was gonna say is, if we could put something on, from a purely planning perspective, if we could put something on either the next agenda or the agenda afterwards, where we can bring to the table, these are the months that we think are important, and then we can decide as a board which ones we want to spearhead, kind of, or that we feel like if we're to issue a statement for this month, how can we work with our other community partners to make sure that we have resources from the library, from the Council on Aging, from the police department, from whoever, fire safety, whoever we decide to do that with. Because I do think that, like Zach's saying, I don't think it needs to be a rush, but I'm also a planner. Like, I'd love to be like, great, we've got all this stuff. I don't want to be in a position again to have to be so reactionary. I want to be able to say, in 3 months, we're gonna do this, and this is what we've got planned for this. And I think it's a simple agenda item that we all bring something to the table and say, this is what I would like to do, and X, Y, and Z. And that way we've covered open meeting. We're all having this discussion, all of us together. And then see if we can get buy-in from other community groups. See if they're willing to. Nash is doing all of this great work. They sent us that letter about all the things that they're doing. Why can't other groups be also doing that? Our job is to sort of say, hey, we are supporting what you are doing, and here are all the things that you're doing. And we get to publicize that, and we get to say, like, so-and-so is doing this. And so it's a real, to me, this is us being community leaders, but not necessarily having to have Denise or the DEI take on all the work of that too. A community is a community is a community. I want to just make sure that that people are working with us as well, and that we're working with other groups. So,
Yeah, Jim?
I think the only part I agree with that. The only part that I think is missing is maybe feedback from Denise and her group about realistically how many times a year could they do something like this. I would expect that number would be close to 0 between now and town meeting, but then, after that, realistically, what do we think, how many could they do? And ideas that she may have about groups too. But then I do like your part about, if other people wanna step up and help with the education part, we can partner with them.
Because there are people in this community that are doing that work. Like, we can amplify it just by being in this position. Like, we don't have to start at the ground floor. We can just amplify the work that's already being done. If that makes sense.
Especially if there's a Stowe connection, which is one of the things I like
Yes.
about Black History Month.
Yes,
I mean, it's really connected here.
absolutely.
Yeah, sorry, Courtney, yeah.
So what if we wanted to do a really nice thorough job on something like has just been done? And we thought that really that could, I'm just hypothetical, throwing out a number, that could perhaps only happen 2 or 3 times a year. But once something's been done, so the following year,
Mhm.
The opportunity is that some of it could be repeated more easily, or we could actually focus on adding a new one. So, if we sort of thought, well, we're gonna take the initiative to work really, to develop a couple of opportunities a year to highlight something, and then the following year, it could continue as part of a flow that was less of an effort because it had already had the focus.
Mhm.
And still, as Megan said, accepting other people's work, but in terms of our workload, only taking on, a couple of big projects, maybe, and then, maybe being happy to selectively amplify, or to amplify work that others have done.
So I mean, I think, asking like the library or council on aging or any of the other sort of more of the organization arms of the town, if they've got plans to recognize whatever. I mean, fire department, fire safety month and, bike helmet month is probably on Mike Solis's list, I mean, but I'm still concerned about it in any way going back to Denise and the DEI committee, because that's not the purpose of that committee. The purpose of that committee is to work on the real change that's gonna happen if we can, encourage better hiring practices and better advertising for why you wanna live here and have affordable housing. I mean, to me, that's the kind of work that kind of committee, I was actually wrote down, like, maybe we should hear what the charge of that committee is, but we can get to that at a different time. But, I think that's, the kind of advocacy or education work that we're talking about isn't necessarily what a group of employees should be doing. This is, to me, that's what either members of this board can do or that residents in town can do. And I want to support them, but I just want to be careful about putting more on an already overworked staff, basically. So I think we need to own this. I guess that's fundamentally, that's my thing. I want us to own this and not put it on the staff.
That's a fair point.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think we all want to avoid is members of this board going to individual department heads and saying, you need to put something together for this month.
Absolutely.
So I get what you're saying, that I don't think I appreciated this, that it's probably not the purpose of Denise's group to even do this, but is it still fair to ask the town administrator for feedback on what the town resources can pull together? How many times per year? When we have this discussion at the next meeting, let's say one of us or some of us come with like 8 things in a year that we want to commemorate. Well, that sounds just great, but realistically, if we want it combined with education and actual stuff, that's a lot of work for somebody. So I'm just trying to get the maximum number that we can realistically express or expect, and then we'll have to fit our expectations to that. Is that fair?
So I'll hand it to you, Denise.
Yes, so a couple things. So the purpose of I don't like using the word committee, but the purpose of the team I've put together for this has been solely focused on this topic. We're not focused on anything larger picture, because quite frankly, this has consumed all of our time trying to figure out this whole awareness and how the board will handle some of these matters. We actually will meet tomorrow. We have been meeting regularly. And I think to the point that Jim just made in response to Ellen, that I agree. My job is to deal with the departments and what the departments are doing and what the library is doing and what the Council on Aging may be doing. That's what my group is focusing on, is how can we as town departments facilitate the message. That being said, what we can handle, we've talked about, maybe 3 larger month on the diversity level. Because quite frankly, and yes, I spent an enormous amount of time on the Black History Month information because quite frankly, I feel, and I don't mean this as a criticism to folks that might be watching or listening, I feel that whatever I did, I was gonna be criticized one way or another. I wanted to make sure there was so much information available and so much time and effort because I was so afraid of the criticism and the backlash if we didn't do something up to par or what folks were expecting or what folks wanted to see. Now, that being said, I don't know that same process will be what we carry through to each month that we choose to recognize. To me, that will get stale if we do the same thing and recognize a person each week. So I will say the next larger month that we are focusing on is Pride Month. We will do stuff in between, but more on the awareness level. Autism awareness comes up. We will still focus on Breast Cancer Awareness Month. To Courtney's point, those are sort of the easier ones to carry from year to year. Obviously, we have the resources now for breast cancer awareness. We know what to do with autism awareness. It's trying to keep fresh ideas for the diversity aspect. That's what we sort of spend time thinking about. We've talked a lot about how we can work with the schools. We actually wanted to try and get the schools to draw some pictures and but trying to coordinate that and plan that in, a relatively short amount of time, well, in a pandemic, but a relatively short amount of time, in the amount of time that we all have. I wasn't lying when I've been in meetings 2 weeks straight, and I keep thinking like, well, we have this meeting tomorrow, and I haven't done anything in anticipation of it, and but I enjoy it, and the folks that come here, and the folks that are part of this team really come and are engaged and ready to come up with ideas and figure out what to do. It's just that then we need to sort of corral it together. And everyone has ideas, but then what can we accomplish? Quite frankly, we don't have funds to keep buying things, so, what can we prioritize? Is there something that we can partner with? Is there an event that we can promote? Obviously, utilizing the Council on Aging newsletter, utilizing the Recreation newsletter. If folks haven't read them, both of those newsletters featured a story on for Black History Month. Obviously, the partnership with the library. In our meeting last month to prepare for Black History Month, Tina went out and ordered the books for the folks that we chose to recognize so that she had those available. They have a great display over there. Some of those things we can easily continue on a monthly basis. It's sort of the bigger, how do we really pull it all together and what message are we putting out? So I don't know that there's a magic number, but like I said, we've talked about maybe 3 or 4. We've talked about that next year, do we do opposite months so that we try and give every month an opportunity? Those are things we're still trying to figure out that what we have the bandwidth to accomplish. Obviously, a number of the folks on my team are department heads. They all have their own work that they need to focus on. But we are committed to putting forth a diverse message. We want to create a welcoming community. We want to create an environment where folks of all backgrounds, nationalities, colors, race, sex, religion, they want to work, they want to live in. We want to show that we are welcoming. Just how we do that and how we do that correctly is something that we struggle with as a group. So we'll continue to work on that. I'm happy to facilitate. If you guys have specific topics that you want to focus on, I can bring that back to my team. We can talk about, some ideas that we might have. It's a little, It's a great thought that we could have something planned 3 months in advance. It's just not our reality, unfortunately. But we could try. We can try to do that. But we do. I mean, we meet and we talk and we meet again and we follow back up and everyone sort of has a homework assignment and then we try and pull together what we can. So I'm happy to take suggestions, to take recommendations. If there's things that folks would like to see, if it works, if it doesn't work, we're happy to discuss all that. I just ask, as I mentioned in a previous meeting, just, I ask that folks be patient with us as we maneuver through this. Please don't, criticize if we don't recognize the month. It's not that we don't care. It's not that we don't recognize and feel that every member of our community is important. But we do have limited resources and we have limited availability to work through this. But we are trying. We are trying to do the best that we can, and we will continue to explore options for increasing diversity awareness.
Thank you for clarifying what your group was. I actually had it totally wrong, so I apologize. I also
Eventually,
wanted
that
to-
would be the goal.
Yeah, well, I was absolutely, in terms of talking to the departments, I was asking if they were already thinking of doing things. I wasn't suggesting we tell them what they should do, so I just wanna make that clear, because I know Council on Aging often has their own sort of programming that's what they're doing and not necessarily coordinating. I mean, we don't ask them necessarily to coordinate with the rest of town, same with the library or whatever.
And
So-
I was gonna say, and the library does too. I mean, there are so many months.
Right,
of-
right.
Yeah,
So that's what I think just taking advantage of that, if they have, especially when it's something like both groups have volunteers that are working with them, so if they're gonna put effort into it, we wanna publicize it.
Right, and Tina, Laura, Allison are on my team.
Right.
So,
Right.
the three key departments that have programming and
So you're-
newsletters and
Right.
a number of followers on social media, they're active in these conversations to figure out what resources we can share through departments, how we can piggyback off each other, and how we can promote each other. Obviously, there are other departments involved, but those ones have such a wide variety of participation that obviously we want to capitalize on that.
Right,
I just wanna say thank you, Denise, for what you said. I think it's really important that folks understand how hard you're working at this issue. I think folks are still fighting 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. This is new. So I think folks are still pushing because they think they need to. Part of me still thinks we need to. And I think that's really important. So I wanna echo what you said, cause I think it's really important to say, step in and help, volunteer right now. This is the time to help make that change. And I think that's really the ask that's on the table is, step in and really help us get this going. Because I think this could be just listening to all the ideas and 3 to 4 months, that's way beyond what even I was thinking, right? I'm thinking we can get maybe one, I thought Black History was it, and I'm wow, we nailed it, it's perfect. But it is one where I say now's that's the question. To me, what you just said raises, we have a green committee, why not a diversity committee? That's what it raises in my mind is if we are going to take this seriously, we have folks in town who are just like our green committee, really good experts at the topic. And it lends to me something of really thinking about, how we're approaching this, how we can ensure that we're getting good information, time spent, volunteers, really helping us own it. I think I really like that, us owning it to the extent that it can be supportive and helpful in that conquest. But I just wanted to say that because I think that I feel like there's sort of a little bit of a consensus of we're gonna get 3 months that we can go probably in depth. 4 is stretching it. I don't think there's any reason to go to a 4th one because I think at the end of the day, let's just try to do it right. Let's get the ball rolling. We'll figure out, we'll trial and error, we'll figure, that's what this is. And I feel like as it gets going, I feel like we can, truly rely on the spirit of our neighbors and our, townsfolk to help us make sure we're going in the right direction. And I think that's exciting to me. But that's sort of what I'm hearing. And Madam Chair, you did mention something, and I think it's really important about sort of like how do we respond to community inputs that aren't necessarily one of those three? And I think that's where I think our policy could be very helpful of having tier differences, right? And how we are going to be planning on the one hand certain events, but on the other hand, providing that. And I think we should try to work through that. I think it's more it's a very complicated topic, but I think it's a very fair point that you raise of like, I want to be responsive to community members making suggestions that may not be the three we're focusing on. How do we do that? And I think that's so important, and I think it's one that it's going to take, I think, time to work through that. But I don't think we should slow down the other three because we're scared of the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh one we're not getting. And so, I wanted to echo that because that one really hit me, like, how are we gonna work through that? And I'm, my brain's already like running of like, how can we try to do this? Because I think it's so important to do that. That's it.
So, I don't know if, Megan's suggestion of bringing some ideas of our sort of topics, but it sounds like if your group has, because I think three seems to be a good number, let's just say, if your group has, the two others this year, they think, and well, you already said Pride is the next one, so there's someone after that. I don't think we have to have a particular long discussion about what, our personal preferences are at this point, but, I also don't wanna, I wanna just make sure we bring this up again. Next meeting is not a good meeting to bring it up because we have a pretty full agenda already, so we won't do it next meeting, but, let's just keep, percolating and, start working on it. Yeah, Courtney?
Could we, instead of bringing ideas of which things we wanna focus on, could we bring ideas about how to graciously recognize things that we aren't gonna focus on and have that discussion and bring our ideas, Zach basically just said that, but maybe that could be our homework, to think about how we will still, honor requests without going in depth in the same way.
Yeah.
I don't want to belabor the point. Sorry, we'll move on. What I was gonna say to that is, we do have board members' comments in.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so we could utilize that for, I'm going to make a statement recognizing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I think that for the months that we're not focusing on having, many, many events and stuff, that it's perfectly acceptable to make a statement then.
I do too. That's kind of what I put
Another way.
Yeah, and I think whoever had said, the distinction between awareness, I guess you were saying, as an example, but, so bring it on, and again, we'll make sure we amplify this with the public that, if there is something going on. I think all of us tend to read something that sees, whether it's in the paper or, Facebook or whatever, that, if it seems like something that's worth noting, even if it's a small event, it's, sometimes the small events are the ones that deserve the most amplification, right?
Right,
So-
absolutely.
So, okay, so we have some general thoughts and I will keep formulating them and share you're percolating with me and we'll move forward on this.
Can I just say one thing on this, which is, I think it would be very helpful, Denise, if during town administrators' report, if providing some sort of outlook on these initiatives moving forward of sort of where you're at, because I think hearing, hey, we're planning for Pride Month, like that's what we're looking at, like that, I think is really helpful for folks, so that way it can be, known, and so it's not really reaching out to you being, what are you doing for Pride Month, but it's more like, they're doing Pride Month stuff, like, let's try to organize something on our side, like, let's reach out and say, hey, we're having this event, so I was thinking, trying to make sure we're, communicating what this may look like moving forward, I think could be helpful for community members to know it's on the radar, it's moving, and hopefully, I think mitigating some of the criticism versus sort of letting them know, like, it's on the radar, it is being worked through. Unfortunately, May 14th is a really important day as you're planning, that it may be May 15th. But I think that would be very helpful because I'm trying to think about how to connect so that way that doesn't happen in terms of criticism.
Yeah, I can certainly talk about, what months we have chosen or what recognitions we have chosen, as far as what we will do is, like I said, really a work in progress right up until the day before. But yeah, I'm happy to, but I can say that, as I mentioned, we are gonna do something. We will support the autism awareness. I think that's on the next agenda for the Lighted Up Blue. And then Pride Month will be the next sort of big diversity month that we are focusing on. Haven't really gotten to the second half of the year to figure out what month we will pick, but we're working on that.
There's butternut squash month, I think, no. You know, it's still history, right? So anyway, okay. All right. All right, let's move on. We're gonna update the list of records access officers.
And I think it's just two small changes.
These are the two new people, the highlighted ones.
Yes.
Being, Nancy McManus from Community Preservation Committee, who is their assistant, and then JP Benoit, our new fire chief.
Yes, please.
Okay. Ms. Fresha, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, let's see, I just don't see, so I move to approve the updated list of record access officers as presented at this meeting.
Second.
Are there any questions about this? We all good? All in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. All right.
And a thank you to Joyce for keeping us up to date on this list.
It's essentially every department has, well, I don't know if every department, but every major department has a records officer.
Yes.
Okay, now we got the debt exclusion ballot that was mentioned earlier. So this is to put it, to work out the wording now for the upcoming warrant, is that?
So not necessarily, the wording is fairly statutory. This is just obviously to plan for the election. This board is the authority to approve ballot questions. So this is a draft of what it will look like. I don't expect it to change much. For those of you who are familiar with debt exclusion questions, a dollar amount does not appear on the ballot. That is by statute. I know folks do not like that. I agree, it's not the best way, but we have no say in that. So this is generally how it will look. What we actually put as the sort of items that the bond will cover, we may have to work out, but I don't expect it to change much from this. But this is really a request to authorize a question to appear on the ballot to support the library renovation project.
And the amount itself will come up in the warrant article, so people will see it there. I mean, with what you had said earlier, that it'd be sort of a top amount with the idea it might come down.
Correct. So leading up to both town meeting and the election, there will be information. You know, I will be putting out information as to what the tax rate impact will be if folks vote on this. We will have, you know, what this means, what a yes vote means, what a no vote means. We will have that information out. But yes, on the town meeting warrant, the actual article will have the dollar amounts listed. Again, the maximum amount, and then it will be offset by any not borrowing, CPC funds, fundraising, trust fund allocations, and then the remaining amount is what would actually be borrowed through the debt exclusion.
Mr. Salvi?
And when you say the maximum amount, Denise, I'm understanding you to mean, let's say the total cost is $8.5 million. The maximum amount would be the maximum of the town's general fund contribution of, let's say, 6, no?
No, so the warrant will identify the maximum of $8.5 million. And then it will go through to say, you know, this amount shall be offset by amounts. CPC will have their own article to authorize funding, but it will articulate that. It will articulate any further offset by any, or allow the board to accept any fundraising grants or gifts on behalf of the project. And then it can identify trust funds could be considered gifts to the project. So the warrant article is the ceiling of the project, because we have to have a maximum authorized for expenditures.
Okay, but we'll know the maximum of the town's exposure, the town's general fund exposure, even if fundraising doesn't go anywhere.
So potentially, but not necessarily. That's why I would give folks sort of the, if when we, at the time of the election, here's where we stand with the cost and the monies we know of as of that time. As you know, the project is slated to be a couple of years, so fundraising really will not have kicked off yet. We do not borrow the funds until they're needed, so we would borrow in stages as we need it. And then that last piece would be the only amount needed to cover whatever hasn't been raised in fundraising. So we don't know the exact amount, and that's actually how all of the debt exclusions, same thing with like school projects. You have the max of the total project cost, and then it's offset by the state contribution and green energy grants and things like that. So we will not know an exact. I will give if we get nothing else, this is the most you will pay in taxes to approve this. But the hope will be, and I do think they have a very energetic fundraising group, so I would expect that they will do a very healthy fundraising campaign. So whatever we predict, I would assume it will be lower than that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the warrant language or on the ballot question? And, so we had you already made the motion.
No, I didn't make.
No, you didn't make the motion. I'm already, yeah, go for it.
I move to authorize a debt exclusion ballot question for the Randall Library renovation.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Now, consent to allow KP Law to represent Town of Stow with regards to the Nashoba Area Police Anti-Crime Task Force.
Yes, so the police department is working on this anti-crime task force. The chief, no surprise, decided to spearhead this movement. So in order to do so, we wanted to get something drafted that would allow and describe the process of how these communities would share resources, share information, share knowledge. I had reached out to town council to draft sort of that regional agreement. As you can see, they represent a number of the same towns. So this is just a really disclosure that each of the towns would have to sign saying that they know that they represent multiple communities. It's not one particular town's interest, it's all of the interests contained. So it's fairly standard. We've done it in the past with other regional agreements. And we are confident that the other communities won't have an issue with it. There's nothing, we're not exchanging funds other than if one town does something, the other communities may be able to send a bill or things like that, but we're not pooling our resources as far as funding goes. It's really just a collaborative information project, really.
Any questions?
Can I just ask a clarifying question? So what we're authorizing right now is just really a conflict of waiver for the attorneys. The policy that you just described, is not upward, that's just to give us some context of what that is, correct? So it's
Correct.
just about the conflict of.
This is just authorizing KP to move forward on the town's behalf in the policy.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I move to allow KP Law to represent the Town of Stow with regards to the Nashoba Area Police Anti-Crime Task Force and to approve and sign the determination form provided at this meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
And I think I left you that too, right, to sign, Ellen?
Yeah, is that this one or is that over there?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yes,
these
when
are-
you
this
all
is
walk up,
everyone.
because you all need to
Yeah.
sign that one. Yes, thank you.
Okay, we're down to the minutes from last meeting. Yes.
So my name is spelled wrong.
Uh-oh.
On page 3 on the bottom, it's Birch McMichael, not McMichael. But that's it.
You got that, what it is, I'm not seeing where it is, but,
It's the adjournment. I mean, it's
Oh, did you?
literally, it's the only thing I
oh yeah.
said,
There you go.
apparently.
But you know, if your name's gonna be in print, you might as well get it right.
No.
Any other changes?
No.
All right,
I move
Motion?
to,
yes.
I move to accept the minutes of the January 25th, 2022 meeting as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Unanimous, great. Correspondence? So I noticed we got another question about Spring Fest, and I'm just wondering what we should be telling people. I think previous meeting we had said, well, call the select board if you're interested. I don't know if that's
So I will take the position, I am not involved in Springfest.
Yeah.
You know, to me, it's really up to this board or the volunteer groups. I don't believe we have enough members on the Springfest committee.
That's what I was just gonna check. Do we have anybody on?
We
this?
do have some, but I don't think we have enough for a full committee. We discussed last time that when we were setting the dates for, and I don't remember if it was town meeting or the election, that it was falling on the traditional Springfest date.
Right.
But we weren't concerned, given it was already, 2022 when no one had approached us.
Right.
So I will completely defer to, I'm happy to help if I can, but I don't take a position on it.
Well, I would say the first thing is that if someone wants to apply to be on the Springfest committee, since it is a formal committee and people might not realize that it's not just a bunch of volunteers, there's at least 3 people have to be on the committee. And there are funds put into town, through our annual budget to support Springfest, but those 3 people would be the ones to authorize to make recommendations on spending. So if anyone's interested, I would say that's the first thing. And as a former Springfest committee member, and I think Megan also is a former, it takes a lot of work to do a big thing, but a little thing might still happen. It would be lovely if someone wanted to come up with a one evening kind of thing after elections and everything are over. I mean, that initially, way back when, the idea of Springfest was that you'd had the town election, any rough, hurt feelings and bad, whatever competition was played out by having games together. So that's what I remember in my early experience with Springfest. So if we wanna have a concert or someone wants just to do volleyball somewhere, whatever. So I would say, but that's the first thing. We'll just say, if anybody wants to organize Springfest, put your name in, just send us a letter of interest to the select board office saying you'd like to be sworn in or appointed a member of the Springfest committee, and we'll go from there.
There are currently 3 vacancies.
So,
I think it's a 5-member committee, but
oh, is it a 5?
I believe so.
Feels like there was never more than 3, but, but that means there's only 2 now, so, right?
If they're still on there, yes, I'd have to double check
So
with
they don't
Phoebe.
have, they can't have a quorum, so we need at least 1 member.
Right. That was yeah. So, any other comments on correspondence, anything else? All right, then, that final motion,
I move to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, all right, great. Thank you, everybody, good night.